During these trying times, in the times right in the middle of a war that we're having with the Arabs, and exactly during the Parshiot of Lech Lecha and Vayera, there's a very important message which I think we have to bring across, which our rabbis already have told us. Chazal already told us 2,000 years ago. But it's good to hear these couple ideas. It says in Parshat Vayechi, now this is in Parshat Vayechi, but it connects to our Parshat in Parshat Vayera, that when Yaakov Avinu gave to Yosef the brachot, he gave him two portions. He gave him two portions. Of course, we know he got the Bechorah. He told him, Becharbi ubekashti. It's special, you got it because of Becharbi ubekashti. I'm giving it to you because of the cherev, the sword, and the keshet, and the bow. Two of the klei zayin, of the weapons that were used at the previous time, and as we'll see, it's obviously relevant to our day and age that we don't use these weapons, but it has the same status. The Gemara in Baba Batra says in Kuf Chav Gimel, they say, what does it mean? Charbi, cherev is tefillah. I'll explain to you soon why. The sword is the weapon for tefillah, for davening, and keshet, the bow, is for lashon bakasha. Bekeshet, the letters of bekeshet also means bakasha as a request, which means that there are two different types of tefillot. We have a tefillah, which is what is written in the sidurim, which is written in the prayer books that we know, that we read a special specific nusach, what's written over there. And there's another type of prayer, which is one of our own personal supplications, as the Onkelos writes over there on the pasuk. Tzloti ubebauti. Tzloti is a certain type of davening that we know, the standard type of davening, the prayers that we're familiar with. And then you also have the B.O.T., which is a personal supplication, something that we have on an individual basis. That's what basically is referred to when he was giving the bracha to Yosef. Now over there, the Meshech Chochmah says a very important idea. He says Charbi, which is referring to that specific seder of tefillah, a specific thing which Knesset Gedolah gave us, is because a cherev, a sword, so to speak, can destroy things even if the person doesn't know how to wield it. You all know that when you're sitting and you're about to cut your challah, and when the little baby's sitting not far from you in the high chair, and he grabs the knife and he starts flowing it around everywhere, he can cut everyone in front of him, even though he doesn't know what the heck he's doing. But still, the fact that the sword itself is intrinsically powerful, it itself is sharp, that itself is what can cause the nezek, that's what can cause the damage. It has an intrinsic power inside of it, even if the wielder of the sword doesn't know what it is. That's the advantage of the sword. Of course, the disadvantage of the sword is that you have to be in close proximity to the person who's wielding it. In order to offend the person next to you, in order to do something with it, you have to actually be next to the person, put yourself in danger, so to speak, also, but you have to actually be next to him, and you can't do it from afar. This is what the Nefesh Chaim says, is the idea of davening also, when we daven using what we call the Sidur, when we daven what Anshe Knesset Gedolah, what the big rabbis, the Chazal, taught us 2,400 years ago in the time of the second Beit HaMikdash, the words that we have in the Sidurim, that is a specific, as they say, nusach, a specific verses that are written, they intrinsically have power. So even if I don't have kavanah, this is the special heter, even if I don't specifically understand every word I'm saying, or I don't necessarily have perfect kavanah, having perfect understanding and concentration to what I'm saying, I'm still yotze, similar to the sword, similar to that knife that we were speaking about, as long as I'm wielding it here and for. Of course, its power might be a little bit less, since I don't 100% understand what I'm saying, but the fact that the words themselves are intrinsically powerful, because they were written by the big rabbis, they were written by Chazal, so that is why it is compared to a cherev, that's why it's compared to a sword. As opposed to a bakasha, a personal request, has also an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage of a bakasha is I know exactly what I'm saying. It's my own personal supplication. And it's dealing with my own specific issues. It's not general issues which are being spoken about by the rabbis, by Chazal. It's my own personal things that are bothering me, and it comes from what we call the shfichat halev, from my own place. But the halacha is that you have to understand what you're saying. If you don't know what you're saying, then it doesn't work. It doesn't have the same power as the general supplication, as the general davening that one says. As the Gemara says in Ta'anit and Dafchet, kesham nafsho bekapo. You have to go and put yourself into it. You have to understand what you're saying. It has to be there. You have to know each word that you're saying, and it has to come from the right place. As the Maharshal writes, shenoten lev lema she'omer. He pays attention to what he is saying. That is the yesod of a bakasha, an individual supplication, which is parallel to the idea of a keshet, of a bow and arrow, because a bow and arrow also shoots from afar, but you have to have good aim. In other words, a keshet can have tremendous power, but less power. It's not as good as the sword because you have to know what you're doing. You have to be an uman, you have to be a professional to know how to aim, to shoot, to perfect your your perfect shot to make sure that you get it to the right spot. That's the idea of a keshet. But the advantage is, of course, you could do it from afar. You could do it when you're hiding. You could do it from a far distance, and that's what we need our personal supplications for. You have to know how to do it. You have to know what you're saying. But when you do it, you can get anything that you want. You can shoot from any direction that you want. You can ask for any personal things. I have a problem with my parnasa. I have a problem with my children, with my wife, with my parents. I have an issue with the briut, with my health, etc., etc. That's the power of a personal supplication. That's the idea why it's compared to a keshet, to a bow and arrow, because, like I said, it requires a certain umanut, professionalism. It requires to be a sharpshooter, but when you have that sharpshooter, you can do it even from a distance. That is what comes out based on the Meshech Chochmah, which we mentioned. Now, the Maharsha in that Gemara in Baba Batra Kuf Chav Gimel, which talks about this idea, everything we spoke is from this Gemara in Baba Kama Kuf Chav Gimel, which mentions this idea about the Cherev and the Keshet, says an incredible thing, and listen to this, because it's also relevant for us. He says there are two different types of enemies that Bnei Yisrael have that are represented, one by the Cherev and one by the Keshet. Of course, we know Becharbecha Tichya, Esav received, the brother of Yaakov, received a special blessing that you will live by the sword, that will always be your defender. You will be able to survive with it. You will have Becharbecha Tichi, and that will be your antidote to success, Kebiyachol, and that will be the way that you will be able to succeed. That is what he received, and therefore the Cherev, this idea of the fighting sword, which is hand-to-hand combat, which is close, will be his present. That will be his present, and that's what he has. As opposed to, and here's the Chiddush of the Maharsha, listen to this, Yishmael, who is the father of all the Aravim, of the Arabs in general, their present is the Keshet. They are the ones who deal with the bow and arrow. They're much more, and it's incredible because when you look at something you don't pay attention to, when you look in the Psukim and you look at Rashi in a few places, always Yishmael is dealing with a bow. He's always dealing with a bow. It says in the pasuk in Parshat Vayera, in Perek Chaf Aleph, Vayi Elokim et Anar, Hashem was with Yishmael, Vayigadel, and he grew up. Vayeshev b'midbar, Vayeh roveh keshet, and he learned how to string a bow. He knew how to go ahead and shoot a bow and arrow, and to be able to shoot things and shoot birds and to do things from a distance. He was a very professional shooter, a sharp shooter, from being able to doing from afar. Rashi also brings in Perek Chaf Aleph and Pasuk Tet and a different Pasuk, he brings the Midrash that Yishmael was mitzachek with Yitzchak. When Yitzchak was born, as we all know, the younger brother, and we all know from our house that the younger brother, especially the younger sister, always gets the butt of everyone's jokes and problems. But anyways, Yishmael was going ahead and causing a lot of problems to Yitzchak. Vayi mitzachek. Says Rashi, Shaya notel keshet v'yoreh chitzim. He would take a keshet and he would shoot arrows. Umore klape Yitzchak, and listen to this, and he was making it, pointing it towards Yitzchak, and he's making it as if it's a joke. In other words, he was going and shooting, he was just showing like a joke. Hey, look at this, target practice. Hey, shooting in the air, but really, he was aiming it straight at Yitzchak. At the whole time, he was doing it straight at Yitzchak. The Radal is a pirush on the Pirkei of Rebbe Elazar in Perek Lamed. He says this, brings a midrash. He was playing around. Ki'ilu was having game. He was outside shooting birds. Ki'ilu was going out hunting. And the whole time he was really aiming his real aim towards Yitzchak. His goal was all quite different. Incredible. This is the man who was shooting bows as opposed to by Esav, which of course Esav represents Edom, which is Germany, or let's say somewhat of the Western world. They are ones who are dealing with the sword. And what's the difference between the two of them? Oh, there's so much of a difference. When a person's dealing with the sword, so you're dealing with face-to-face combat. Heavy. The Kol Da'olim Gvar, as they say, the successor is the one who fights and has succeeded, the one who's more powerful. He's the one that is able to succeed. And that was the meat of Esav. Always hand-to-hand battle. They were attacking us, they were being mean to us, they were being evil to us, and always trying to get rid of us. And yes, that's how it was more or less when it came to Edom, which of course was Christianity, so to speak. They were straight out and out. You guys are not turning Christian, we're going to put you on the stretcher, we're going to punish you, we're going to hang you up on crosses, we're going to do everything we can to punish you. And there was no picnic dealing with having to do with them. Okay, that was the Yadayim of Yadei Esav that unfortunately we've suffered during this long malchut that we call Edom. That's what it was. But the Melchama with Yishmael is a totally different Melchama. It's a different type of war. The Melchama of Yishmael is one that is not face to face. It's when the person who's bracing the bow, who has the bow and is hiding behind a rock, he's hiding behind houses, he's hiding inside of hospitals, he's hiding inside of places where you can't see him. It's not straight to see who's the stronger, who's the more powerful successor. That's not what the sword of the battle is. It's much more than that. It's how stealthy, how much I can hide, how dexterous, how I can make sure to be avoided. I hide behind civil shields. I go ahead behind civilians, innocent people, and I'm willing to hide behind them in every type of way that I can. I will never stand face to face in the front. I will not do it. I will come with an element of surprise, go ahead and kill as many people as I can and run behind my civilians again in order to accuse Israel, to close Bnei Israel, of being such evil people that were going and killing innocent civilians. They will travel around weapons from place to place, sitting inside of only ambulances, because of course we know that we can't blow up an ambulance. The hospital that was blown up by their own missile, of course, was the reason why an overextension explosive, which we've never seen before, those tilim, those missiles which shoot, are not able to explode so much, was for one and simple reason, because the storage houses of the majority of their weaponry was in the hospital. That's where it was. It deserved to be blown up. Just we are officially not allowed to go out and blow it up. So Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem did us a chesed, and they blew up their own hospital for us. They did it for themselves, and it made a tremendous amount of blasts. That's the way they work. They hide behind the bow and arrow. Yes, a stealthy type of way of working, but always hiding. It's a world of trickery. It's a world of deceit. It's a world of playing a game of being extremely ruthless, but at the same time being ruthless to my own people, to hide behind. That is the midah of a bow, to be able to hide from afar, shoot from a distance, and I don't even know where it's coming from. People who walk into a bus and blow themselves up in a ruthless type of way, and we now know where to find them. It's not a face-to-face battle. This is a totally different front, one we are not familiar with, once and for all. The Jews have been suffering for 2,000 years. They came to their country, they said, we're going to have our own army, we're going to try to work on ourselves as much as we can, and Baruch Hashem, they went and said, we're going to try to prevent any type of battles. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, look what he does. He went and made a battle which an army helps, but it doesn't help as much as it's supposed to. Because when you're dealing with a culprit, a criminal that is working only behind shields, which you're not allowed to shoot. So how do you get to them? Where do you get to them, and where does it stop? How deep do you have to go underneath the ground in order to spot them out, to pull them out of where they're supposed to go? That's the idea of Yishmael. Incredible. The Midrash says, and Rashi brings this in the end in Sefer Bamidbar. Midrash says that when we wanted to go into Eretz Yisrael, so we went to Esav, and we said, Esav, can you let us just go through? We're not going to fight with you. We're just going to go into Eretz Canaan so we can conquer the land. Esav said, no, sorry. We said, please, we'll buy food from you. We'll be nice. What did Esav do? They came out with swords and said, you are going to kill us all if you want to go through here. We're going to fight you hand to hand. We said, forget it. Hashem said, we're not allowed to fight with you. We didn't bother fighting with them. We went around Edom. We said, we're just not going to do it. It's not worth it, etc., etc. That's what Edom did. You know what Yishmael did? Yishmael didn't do that. They said, no problem. They came out and they gave us a lot of food, salty food. And they were so happy. We're like, wow, our brothers. I remember Yitzchak and Yishmael. They were good brothers together. They gave us all this salty food. And then we were so thirsty. And they said, here's some flask. And they gave us inflated flasks. We put them in our mouth to drink it, thinking it was water. And it was really air. And the air went into Bnei Israel's lungs, and many were killed. Thousands, tens of thousands were killed because of that event that happened. That's how they work, with deceit, with an indirect way, not hand to hand, but with the bow, with the arrow, to make sure that it's not. In Matan Torah, when the Goyim were saying we don't want to be Mekabel the Torah, so Esav said direct, look, buddy, we like to kill. And, it says not to kill here, it's just not our thing. We like panim. We just like to kill people. And, to tell us that we can't kill, especially if it's dealing with Jews, we just prefer to hold on to that, and they got rid of the Torah. Yishmael didn't talk about killing, they talked about gneva, stealing, which is a mitzvah d'oraita by them. Of course, we know it's a tremendous mitzvah, everything that they do. When we moved here, I remember that the guy, there was, all the Arabs that have to schlep all the stuff, and there was a guy who was driving, and I remember him sitting while he was driving with his bag of his tools. He was the one who was the intelligent one who had to put together all the closets, and was sitting on his lap. And I said to him, why do you put it over there? Why don't you just put it on the seat? He said, I've already lost 4 of these bags. And he himself was an Arab, by the way. He said, I've already lost 4 of these bags because every time I put it down, it disappears. Someone just takes it from me. They pilfer it. They go out and take it away. The idea of a ganav, of course, we know, is the idea of going behind the back, trying to change things around, and that's how it is. Okay, so here is the lesson that we've learned from the day, that the difference between a cherev and a keshet, the difference between the sword and the bow, one is, of course, more offensive, and one plays from a distance. The bow plays from much more of a distance and hides behind. It's less powerful than a sword, but it's more powerful in a way that I can do it from every corner and every crevice, and I'm much more protected. So I might have to shoot them off one by one, but at least I'm well protected behind the shield, or the human shield that I hide myself behind. And this, of course, we understand, as I mentioned before, is very relevant for, unfortunately, the day and age that we are. As much as we think we've come this far, and as much as we're able to blow here and blow things up here and blow things up here, it has a certain amount of limitations. There's only so much that we can do, because no matter where we go, they're always hiding one corner and another corner. They're always coming out from this crevice and this crevice. And here it is, everyone complaining to us if we by accident, and we didn't, but as if when we by accident go ahead and blow up a hospital, and here they are throwing literally missiles, hundreds, and literally they've almost go to 10,000 missiles have gone here and there, blown up buildings. Baruch Hashem, we have a certain protection device, but even with or without it, they're going and shooting at absolutely innocent people, and no one has anything to say about it, because that's the meat of a chetz, to shoot from afar, to go and aim. It doesn't make a difference to where I go, and the only way that we will succeed is with the koach of our bakashot, our personal supplications. We said the koach of the keshet was with the personal supplication. Stop and daven, re'eh ve'anenu, when we say in the Shmones, re'eh ve'anenu, shma koleinu, in the middle, just to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, help us. There are many people who are sick, there are many people who are captured. How many family members? They were talking about, they tell you numbers of 222 family people that are captured, but how many ramifications to tens of thousands of family members is that referring to? A tremendous amount. Everybody knows someone who was there or was killed, lo aleinu, in the 1,500 people that they unfortunately are being megale on a constant basis. The only way to get out of this is with our connection to our Kodesh Baruch Hu, our relationship, our personal supplications, our asking Hashem, can you help us out of this situation? There's nowhere else to turn except le'avinu shebashamayim. I'll end with a midrash. The Midrash says in Shir Shirim, when Bnei Yisrael were after they came out of Mitzrayim, as we all know, and they were by Kriyat Yamsuf, they were by Yamsuf, by the Red Sea. So they looked behind them and they saw the Egyptians approaching, all of them with their swords and their chariots, and they said, oh boy, we're in trouble. They looked the other direction and there was a rampaging and a incredibly large ocean in front of them, and they realized that's not one way to go. That's not one way to go. And as the Midrash adds, they looked to the right and to the left, and there were animals on both sides. There was nowhere to turn. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and they did not know what to do. So what does it say in Shir Shirim? What does it say in the Midrash there, based on Shir Shirim? It brings a mashal of a Yonah, of a dove, who while he was flying sees a nesher, he sees an eagle that is coming and charging towards him. So he picks up the speed and he flies as fast as he can, and he goes into a crevice, into the wall. And he goes deeper and deeper because he sees the beak of the nesher, of the eagle that's trying to pick him out of the crevice. And Baruch Hashem, he found himself a nice comfortable spot inside of this crevice in the hold, and now he feels that he's safe. Until slowly he hears a hissing sound. He looks to the other direction, to his side, and what does he see? He already took a hole that belonged to a snake. The snake was already in there, and he's already there looking to say, wow, my dinner just made it straight to me. He looks outside, he sees the eagle. Looks inside, he sees the snake. So what does he do? So from what does it say? He drapes his wings and goes because of situation, and he's mitpalo to Hashem michoser kol. A real tefillah to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Hashmeini et kolech. I want to hear your voice. I want to hear everything that you have to tell me. When he does that, so then the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and that's what we did. Hashmeini et kolech, in a situation where we were surrounded from all different sides, we were just shofech libenu. You spill out your heart and you try to give everything that you have to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and that's the only way that Bezrat Hashem we were able to be Matzliach. Kodesh Baruch Hu is mitaveh l'tfilatam shel tzadikim. Our koch of our tefilot are there to tell us, yes, it's not going to come with a sword, it's not going to come with a keshet, it's not going to come with a bow. Those are matanot, those are presents that were given to our enemies. It's going to come with the koch of dibur, a kol Yaakov. It's that special voice that Hashem gave us, that prayer, that well understanding that we know to where do we have to address our problems, who is the one that delivers it, and who's the the one that's going to succeed them, who's the one who's going to pull us out of this. It's only with the koach of a kol Yaakov HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us a success, should give us a Hatzalah and Bezrat Hashem Refuah Shlema to all the Cholim Bezrat Hashem.